I think that was a good one.
Fire. That was great, Cecil.
I think it was too. I
Wow,
liked it.
you were getting passionate there for a minute. I was like, you go, Cecil. He was getting on it. Yes.
Anyways, hey folks, how you doing today? This is Cecil and Bill. We're going to talk about some more Bigfoot stuff and sounds. I don't know what else we're going to get into today.
I have a few ideas.
Bill does have some ideas, and this is Aberrations in the Wild. So, Bill, let's take it away, buddy.
Hey, how's everybody doing? First off, thank you. We have a handful of subscribers, and I never thought I would be saying those words.
Me either.
And we're getting some views, and people seem to be enjoying what we're doing. If you are enjoying it, let us know, because we enjoy doing it. It's work, but it's fun, and we really enjoy it. But we enjoy it a lot more if people are paying attention, and they're enjoying it too.
Absolutely. And while we're on that subject, I have found it difficult to do any serious research on Bigfoot related items because I keep getting the obvious scams and hoaxes and things like that. And of course, those are okay to talk about a little bit and stuff. But I want to get as much information as I can. And if you send me some links, send us some links, I can do a little bit more research, and maybe we can get some better sounds and some more videos going. So please do that, folks.
Anything, even if you think this is a bunch of bunk, but I want to see if I can fool them, send it to us. We're going to listen to it. We're going to give you a fair assessment. If it's something, we actually have a clip today, and I'm going to be honest, Cecil. It sounds like it's a real sound. And if I heard it in the woods, I would be flat terrified.
No, really?
And I want to relate it to, this is actually from Oregon, and I want to relate it to one of the Sierra sounds specifically. We were talking about accents and dialects and all the different sounds that people make in language, even clicks, So I just want to get your opinions on it, and I really like that we were able to get that uploaded before you were here.
Good.
So you'll be hearing it for the first time.
Awesome.
There's also some other stuff going on. Cecil, you're not going to be here next week.
No.
My son watched last week's episode where we talked about him and the sounds, and he wanted to talk about that a lot. So if it's all right with you, I think Ryan wants to take your spot next week so we can talk about some of those
That'd
things.
be cool. Yeah, I'd like to hear what he's got to say.
Great. Okay. So I think we're going to do that. I'm also looking at, I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, Cecil, about this David Gersh.
No, I haven't seen anything.
He's a high-ranking military official.
Oh, yes. About coming out about the UFOs and things.
Well, it's UAPs now.
Yeah, UAPs. Sorry,
you got to change the name,
folks.
rebrand it.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of looking at that a little bit. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. And people are pretty much split down the middle. Not like split down the middle as in he believes or they believe or he's full of junk and he's making it up. The Pentagon approved his release. He has a written release from the Pentagon to say he could talk about this stuff. The Pentagon says we're not saying everything he says is accurate, but we're saying he can say it.
Yeah, and if Pentagon says he can say it, you can bet one of two things. It's 100% lie or basically 100% truth.
Right.
And
what are they not letting him say?
Right.
So, it could be a bunch of hogwash, but this happened about 2 days ago, started with a News Nation interview, and I've seen it on every single news outlet. Although, ironically, the whole Trump indictment and all that stuff happened at the same time. Look over here, not over there.
Yeah.
So
diversionary tactics.
Right. I'm going to be looking into that a little bit just to kind of see. I know that's not really what we do here, but it is an aberration, and it's interesting, and it's topical. And if it is in fact factual, it would be awesome to be on top of that.
The
Just the story in general, just kind of
Which one?
the UFO guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is actually part of what we do.
A little bit, yeah.
Aberrations in the wild. It's not something we've been doing right now. We've been primarily talking about Bigfoot, but we do intend to later cover UFOs, at Mothman and all the Jersey Devil and whatever we can find to talk about.
Oh, I got stories for days.
I don't know that I buy the Mothman, and I don't know that I buy the Jersey Devil. But at the same time, I did see a picture, just to cover the bases a little bit, that it's an old picture taken in the 1800s of about 10 or 12 guys holding this huge monstrosity of a bird.
Oh yeah, the big black bird.
No, I'm talking about this one looked like a pterodactyl.
Yes.
And
Like 18 feet, 20 feet,
yes,
something.
it was
I've
like
seen
18,
that picture.
20
Yeah.
feet wide, and it was a spitting image of the drawings that they do of the pterodactyl from the skeleton.
The head, the squared
Yes,
wings, the whole thing. Yep.
Everything. I mean, it was just exactly like it. Now, you got the Indians talking about the Thunderbird and all this kind of stuff. We don't know what any of those things really were for sure, but that is something of interest to me, what these things were, if we can find out.
Very much of interest to me as well.
Yeah, I like to read prehistoric novels, and these are written by people like Gene All and Kathleen and Michael O'Gear and others that have done tremendous amount of research as archaeologists in the first place. So they spin a yarn about some people back then and make a story out of it, but they present things in the light of how they would have been used at the time, according to archaeological evidence. And I just find that stuff fascinating. The whole 9 yards is fascinating.
I agree with you. The large birds. This is a story I've kind of kept in my hat, and I'm not going to go too much detail. We'll call this a little teaser. But I talked about growing up on spending summer times and stuff on the farm in Tennessee. The first thing I ever saw, like physically saw, was a bird. I got up late one morning, which is a no-no on a dairy farm, so I had to walk to the barn. I'm walking through the pasture, and we are in nowhere, Tennessee. I mean, you go to nowhere, and then it's another half hour past that.
Been there.
We are out there. And so early one morning, probably 6:37, the sun was coming up. It was up enough that it wasn't, you could see what you were doing. If there was a snake on the ground, I could have seen it. There was a deceased calf up against one of the fences kind of by the road, the road that runs up to the barn, which is where I was walking. And as I got up closer to it, a couple of turkey vultures flew away.
Yeah.
I know they were turkey vultures because I know what turkey vultures are.
Yeah.
As I made that curve around this bush, the bird that was eating on this carcass was as tall as I was. And I was probably a 4 foot tall person at the time, maybe a little taller.
Yeah.
This bird looked me in my eye. It was not a condor. It was not a crane. My uncle told me it was both of those. It was not. It looked like a turkey vulture, but it was 3 times the size. Every bit 3 times the size. This bird looked at me, and what does a bird do when it sees somebody? Flies away. This bird looked at me for a minute and thought about it. And then it flew away. Yeah. And when it did, it made a shadow on the ground. Like this was a large bird. I have not forgot about it. And there's a little bit more to that story. We can get into that at another time. But that was the first thing that made me say, there is something out there. And I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be. So I told my uncle, I saw this bird, and it's massive. My uncle's like, oh, it was this kind of bird. And I'm old, so I got out the encyclopedia and I looked up that type. That was not what I saw. It looked exactly like a turkey vulture with a more bald head.
Yeah.
And it was massive.
Yeah. There's strange things out there. There's been reports of pterodactyl-like bird flying across the Congo region. Mm-hmm. And there's also been reports of I started to say a plesiosaur, but it's more like an allosaur is what it really was. And, of course, I don't know that it was really there. And, of course, people go there and they investigate and they don't find it. But what I typically see in these investigations, these people go out for a night or two or even a week and say, well, we didn't find anything, so it must have been a hoax, and then they leave. And for all we know, the thing was sitting there waiting for them to leave so it could come out and do its own thing.
Or it was just around the corner.
Or it was just not there
Not
then.
there then,
you know?
yeah.
And, I mean, it's like, how often do you see a fox? I mean, you see them here and there. You see them walking around and stuff. And I was out hunting one day, and all of a sudden, just like a bat out of Hades, boom, rustled around and took off like a bolt of lightning. And it went so fast that I couldn't even really see it. And the only thing it could have been, in my opinion, was a fox, but I never actually saw the thing.
Right.
So was it really a fox? I'm sure it was.
Sure.
But, you know, I don't know that for a fact because I didn't actually see it. So if there's things out there that people hear rather, and don't see, are they what they suppose they are? I mean, I'm pretty sure that a fox would have been in the area where I was at because it was a wooded area where foxes are known, and there were squirrels there, and I was squirrel hunting. So it's hard to say. But anyways, getting back to the subject about Bigfoot, I was doing some research today, and the title was like Bigfoot sightings, and I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was talking about seeing this Bigfoot-like creature, and then there was kind of a haze around the Bigfoot. Of course, in the picture, the way it looked like, the way the lighting was, the haze around it was only about halfway around it, the upper 2/3 of it, and that could very well have been the morning light shining as it was coming through the woods, because it did a similar thing to the trees and things around it. But it definitely did look like Bigfoot. And they showed a couple of other things that definitely looked like Bigfoot. Then they showed this one that in my opinion, it looked a whole lot like Harry and Henderson's version. But then again, I mean, it was a pretty clear picture, and I've seen Harry and Henderson's figure, and we know that it's not real, it's fake. But to be honest with you, it has a very realistic look about it.
It does, and I wonder where the idea came from.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, you know. It does make you wonder.
Yeah. Cecil, when was the last time you saw a coyote? Like physically saw one?
Oh, probably a year or two ago.
Yeah. When was the last time you heard one?
Oh, I've heard them off and on around Troy just last year.
I hear them about almost every night at my house. There's a horse farm and some woods behind my house. I hear them all the time. When I lived in Waynesville, I could set my clock by them. Never saw them though.
Yeah.
But you know they're there. You know,
yeah.
Coyotes have a pretty specific sound. Another animal that has a specific sound is a hyena.
Oh,
You would know a hyena if you heard it without seeing it.
very distinct sound.
So the sound that I have today, the first time I heard it, the second time I heard it, I hear a hyena. Okay?
Yeah.
However, this is in Oregon, and a guy is outside of his house. There's a full video, and I'm going to link that in the description if you want to watch the full video. This guy in Oregon goes outside his house because he keeps hearing this strange noise, what he calls laughing. It sounds like the most maniacal, evil laughing, Cecil. I have a short clip here for us today because I want to compare this clip. If you remember at the end of last week's episode, I told you I was going to bring a really strange clip. This is it. And then I want to listen to that and compare that back to the Sierra sound a little bit, just to see what you think. But this one's short, but it's kind of chilling. So you ready for this?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. This is from Oregon. I don't have the date in front of me. I'm sorry. But this is just outside a guy's house in the woods in Oregon.
Okay.
Cecil doesn't have his headphones on.
Cecil kind of spaced out on you. All right.
That's how much fun we have here, folks.
Yeah.
We have fun. You ready?
Yeah, seniority strikes every 10 seconds. One of these days I'll get lucky and it'll miss. All right, shoot me.
This is going to sound a lot different with the headphones on. For you at home too, if you're listening like on your phone, you probably want to put on headphones to hear this, just because it's weird. So I stopped the clip there. It goes on quite a bit, but it's basically the same sound. The inflection does change. It's definitely an animal. This is not a recording. It's definitely an animal. Or person.
No, that's not a person.
And it goes on for a very long time.
Yeah, that does have some similarity to hyena sound, but
It's not a hyena.
It is not a hyena, and it's not exactly how a hyena sounds.
It's not a coyote.
I've heard numerous hyena laughs on the shows. I mean, on the nature shows and things like that, and even in movies, occasionally you hear it. But that was a little more yippy than what a hyena sounds. A hyena sounds like it's a maniac laughing, and I mean, there's just such a distinct sound, and that was close, but over to the side a little bit.
It doesn't.
It was not a hyena.
I cannot put my finger on anything native to North America, even not just Pacific Northwest, but North America that would sound like that.
I can't either.
Let's hear it again. When it continues, it's the same type of burst, but it's not consistent. It's not the same each time, but it's a burst of syllables, laughing. It's not always the same number. It doesn't sound the same, but it's the same burst.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's really weird. And yeah, that was very descriptive, wasn't it? And
That was the only word I could come up with, too.
but there was a similarity to a dog yip in that, but it to me it sounded enough different, and it's kind of hard for me to put my finger on it. There was just some quality about it that didn't sound just like a dog would to me. Of course, now I mean, I realize dogs do make different kinds of yips and howls and such, and some of them may accidentally just sound that way. I don't know, but I've never heard one that sounded just exactly like that. So it's hard for me to say that would be a dog. And it definitely was not a hyena. And it was, in my opinion, if we roll back in time and listen to some of the other howls and yips that we've heard, and I remember some that I've heard on the internet myself that people have recorded, there's a lot of similarity in them, in some of them. Now, I've heard probably 2 or maybe 3 that had a yippy sound like that to it. And there's also, strangely enough, there are ape sounds from the Amazon and, well, I assume the Amazon, but at least Africa, that sound a little bit like that. So, but yet there's none of those creatures are supposed to be here on this continent, unless they've escaped from a zoo or something, or someone that had
Or a
pets.
mental asylum.
Yeah, well, I promise it wasn't me.
Your voice is too deep for that. So I spend a lot of time. For those of you that don't know, I'm a night shift nurse, and I work long nights in a quiet building. You're not supposed to say quiet in a nursing home. Never say quiet. So I was listening to this sound the other night, and I was thinking about it quite a bit, and I was trying to imagine what kind of anatomy it would take to make that sound. So like a coyote makes that yippy yodel almost, but not like this. A dog, like you said, have some yips in there, but not really. I can't imagine the. I mean, I'm no otolaryngologist, but that was a good word, wasn't it?
I don't even know the meaning of it.
Otolaryngologist. So that's not me. But, common, we all make noises, and you know what it takes to make those noises. And I can't imagine a dog type or a cat animal being able to make that type of yip with their biology. I could see an ape doing it. I could see a person doing it, but a person wouldn't have the lung capacity to do that, or that kind of resonance, or that I don't see a person could do it. I do possibly see that an ape could do it, but it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a Bigfoot sound that we've heard. Your mind doesn't go Bigfoot when you hear it, but it has a lot of similar qualities.
That's true. And and talking about the apes and stuff, I mean the gorillas don't make sounds just like that.
No, they make more of a grunt.
Yeah, and chimps do a little bit, and but they like to scream a lot more than they like to yip and stuff. And I was trying to think. There's another kind of monkey that has a little bit of a yip to it.
You got the howler monkeys too.
Yeah. Well, the howler monkey doesn't sound anything like that.
No, but they have a different.
But there's a different way of doing it, and so I just I mean I'm kind of running through the registry in my brain.
Yeah.
Of the sounds that I've heard, and I'm terrible with remembering names, so bear with me. I'm sorry, folks, but I cannot think of anything that I've ever heard that sounded just like it.
All week I've been waiting to play this clip for you, Cecil, and I was scared to death that you were going to go, oh, that's a blank, whatever. You're like, yeah, I've seen those in the wild. I was scared to death, and I was so excited, and you're going to be like, no, that's your typical Arctic turtle. and they have a mating call that sounds just like that.
Typical capuchin monkey that crossed over the land bridge. No, not at all.
So if you'll, did you have anything to add to that yet?
No, not really.
I wanted to go back and just do a quick recap of a couple of other sounds, just to relate that,
Yeah.
So this is kind of sound roulette because I didn't label them. So
Okay.
we'll see what we got, which might be fun. Sorry about that volume.
Didn't sound anything like it to me. And it definitely, I mean, I can almost hear myself if I really, really buckled down making a sound similar to that. But to make it just like that and to keep going, I don't think I could, be honest.
And to make the sound on the fly, like it's a specific cadence of a sound with like syllabic breaks.
Yeah.
But it's a hilarious sound. It's super funny, and unless it's real and you're in the woods at night and you hear that, then it's absolutely terrifying. So we got that ear buster out of the way. Let's see what this one is. Okay.
What was that at the end there?
That was the guy talking.
Okay. Thought that's what it was. Now that sounded a little bit like that other clip.
That's the one.
That is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
Well,
turned
the
it down.
volume's
I turned the volume down.
Oh, okay.
Because the other one blew
That's
our
why it sounds
eardrums
a little
out.
bit like it. 'Cause the volume's not up.
I figured
Okay.
everybody's ears at home were ringing from that last one.
That could be.
So yeah, those two, not alike, but let's do that one more time, okay? This one's Washington State. Oregon.
Nothing alike to me.
Does it sound like it could have come from the same thing though? It doesn't. It's not the same sound at all. But does it sound like it could come from a similar type creature?
Well, that's truly a difficult question to answer.
Right.
Because, I have a pretty good range in my voice. Most people wouldn't believe this, but I do. And I walked up to a guy at church one day, and he's telling another guy, says, "Here comes the guy who's got the deepest voice I ever heard." And I walked up and I said, "What you talking about?" And so the point is that I can change my voice around, but I can't control it very well. I can control it a little, but not very well.
Can you project it?
Huh?
Can you project it at a different pitch?
I'm not really sure if I can or not. I'm not sure what that even means exactly.
Right.
But I have played around with sounds and different things, and especially like cartoon voices and things like that. But
He's a riot. He's got my kid laughing all the time with his voices. He does a great Donald Duck.
But and my son makes me look like a rank beginner at it. He does these voices and he just pops them out, and he's got the imagination to go with it, and says things that just whatever comes to his mind, and he'll use that voice to say it. And I usually never think of anything to say. I have to think for a couple of minutes to figure out something to say, and then I can do the voice.
Yeah.
All right. But he just pops them out, boom, boom, boom. And he has some vocal control too, but even at his wildest, in my wildest, I can't begin to sound like those.
Yeah.
That high pitched one, not even close. I mean, surely you can tell that over the podcast here that when I raised it up and said, what you talking about? That's still has an undertone of it, of a deep sound in spite of the high pitch. So I just can't quite muster that up,
The other when I was talking about like projecting at that higher voice, we could probably get you with your voice, and maybe even if we added your son, to make some pretty interesting sounds.
Oh yeah.
The question though is, could we go outside and me record you making those sounds across the street?
Nope.
That's what I mean by projecting that higher. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying? You can't.
Okay.
You can maybe if you can make the noise, but you can't send that noise out there where I'm going to capture it on a video.
Okay. No, I can't. I can't do that.
Right. And the other thing, now I've seen some guys. My buddy Brandon is really good at this. If he wants to do, say, Tony the Tiger, they're great. He'll do it for days and days and days and listen to it and get the inflection just right. And when he's done with it, it'll sound perfect. But he does it at one volume and one specific, you know what I mean?
One
it's
phrase,
not,
one volume.
Yeah, it's not even a word. It's more of he's making a sound. But
Right.
it sounds exactly like the thing. And he'll do like a Christopher Walken or something like that, and it's spot on. And then there's other guys that can, Michael Winslow, the guy that was in the Police Academy movies.
Oh, the black guy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man, that guy was good.
And he can make sounds that the human voice shouldn't make.
This is true.
Somebody walking downstairs. And have you heard him do the Led Zeppelin thing with the electric guitar? He does drums and guitar and Robert Plant's voice, and you sound like you're at a Zeppelin concert.
Yeah.
And it's this one dude doing it with a microphone.
Yeah.
So that throws a whole new spectrum into, like, is that even a biological sound? You know what I mean? Like, sounds are they're quirky things.
That's true, and you're absolutely right there, Bill. But the point still is, coming back to what you said about projection. These guys have a microphone to help them project that,
Right.
and
That's true.
and they're in a studio, and you can hear them clearly. There's no one to interfere with them.
There's no wind.
No leaves rustling. No, brush rustling. No anything to interfere. So they can do that under those circumstances, and we don't know that they can do that out in the wild. They may very well be able to, but we don't know that because they've never recorded doing it. And of course, I don't know why they would. But still, as many sounds as I've heard these guys make, I still cannot say that I sounded or heard anything that sounded like these recordings.
Right. Now, I don't want to beat this sound to death, but I would like to play it one last time.
Sure.
And after all of the things we just talked about, I'd like to consider those things. Because the first time that I heard the sound, the only thing that I could put my mind on was a person. Okay, like your stereotypical horror movie, crazy, lunatic in the woods, laughing.
I did not do that.
You didn't? That was the first. That was the first thing my mind went to. Just the lunatic, crazy guy laughing sound like from the movies.
Yeah.
But when we take into consideration the projection factor, also, like I said, the link will be in the video. When you see the video, you see the guy on his phone.
Yeah.
For one, so you see he is outside on the street, across the street from a tree line. So this sound is coming, like you get a better idea of where the sound is coming from.
Yeah.
And this sound is traveling.
Yeah.
It's traveling, and that makes a difference. Would that be a bird, Cecil? Would that be a bird?
Too low pitched.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the high parts sounded like it could have been a bird, but the other parts of it, I think, were too low toned to have been a bird. I've heard parrots and magpies make a lot of different sounds and things like that. Copy horns and all kinds of things, but I've never heard that kind of that deep sound coming from them. They may be able to do it, but if they can, I've not heard it.
You just threw a wrench in my theory. I appreciate it. I'm glad you did, but you did. Because I was talking about the biology of an animal and like the dog making that type of sound, but a bird, you would never think of the biology of a bird and the noises they can make.
Yeah, this is true.
Because a bird can sound just like a person.
Yeah.
Through its beak.
Yeah, that's insane when you think about it.
Yeah, so that kind of throws my whole theory about the biology of the animal making the sound out the window. And I'm glad it did. I didn't want to hold on to that if it's inaccurate.
It's not totally out the window. I mean, it's like maybe part way,
Okay.
But I still have not heard a bird, and I was married to a woman that had parrots, 3 of them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. But anyways, one was an Amazon gray.
Ooh, those are beautiful.
Beautiful bird, and mean like a rattlesnake, and would talk just as plain as you or I. But he had a vibrato to his voice when he spoke. You could tell it was a parrot speaking.
Yeah. You knew it was a mimic.
You knew it, more than just a mimic. The tonal quality of Bill's voice is different from the tonal quality of mine, good or bad or indifferent. It's just different.
It's unfortunate is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a better sound than I do. But anyways, and a parrot has a different tonal quality to their voice.
Sure.
Even though they're making the different sounds. And I've heard that bird say a lot of things. And I do mean a lot of different things. Some of them I can't repeat on the air.
Really?
Literally.
Where did it learn those things, Cecil?
I am not even going to touch that. It wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Well, let me
Wasn't
ask
me.
you. Let me ask you. Did all three of the parrots speak?
No. That one is the one that spoke. They had another one, the green one, and I know the name of that thing, but I cannot remember the type that it was. And P was pretty much my buddy, and we interacted pretty well. But he'd get a little persnickety every once in a while, but he didn't talk. He would make some sounds, and then there was the cockatiel, and the cockatiel didn't bother talking. He just wanted to sing
Yeah.
all the time, chirping and singing and going along with the music and the head bopping like crazy. And it was some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen.
My wife and producer Liberty had a cockatiel when they were growing up.
Yeah.
So my question for you: I've never owned a bird. I like birds. I like birds. I almost adopted a raven because I fell in love with this bird down in wild bird sanctuary in Bellbrook. And they can copy too. They
Yeah.
can mimic sounds. I didn't know that.
So can crows.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
crows and ravens are
Almost
related.
the same. Yeah. So did the parrot you had? Did it use the phrases appropriately? I've always wondered that. Or did it just repeat noises? Or did it say, like, when you would walk in a room, it would say hello or something like that?
Things said all kinds of stuff. Both.
So
It did
sometimes
both.
appropriately.
Sometimes completely appropriately. Sometimes just repeating.
Do you think the appropriate ones were just synchronicity?
Well, that's hard to say because there's a lot of research on birds that indicate that parrots are pretty intelligent,
Yeah.
and the fact that they can mimic sounds is not all they can do. They can actually learn and interact with you.
For instance, Polly wanted a cracker. The bird actually wants a cracker.
Well,
Or is that Pavlov's dog?
Sometimes Polly want a cracker is just repetition.
Pavlov's
Okay.
dog.
But all right. Oh gosh, I can't remember this one phrase that she used to do with him, and then he'd say okay, and then flop his head, play dead, something like that, and he'd flop his head back and it just lay there like he'd just been shot and he's dead, laying her upside in her arm, and and then she'd say okay, that's enough, and he'd pop his head up and say okay.
So there was some comprehension.
Yeah, there was definitely some comprehension. How deep or whatever, I don't know for sure.
I mean,
But there was some.
I fully understand that animals have comprehension, but to use it vocally is a different.
True.
It's like it's even a step beyond a gorilla using sign language. Like
Right.
that's amazing right there,
That is truly amazing to me.
and that shows the intelligence. They're not repeating. They're not repeating what they're seeing you do. They're not mimicking it. They're
Right.
They're creating it. So, and I wonder, we know so like dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
We know dolphins can speak, but we to each other,
It's not our language.
right? And I don't know. It's like
Chinese
there's
people can speak too, but we don't understand.
that's a fact. That's a fact.
So it's no insult to anybody.
No,
It
no, it's
wasn't-
just a whole nother language.
that was just strictly means it was a
Right.
different language, and we
It's
don't
like,
understand it.
It's like the opposite of our language.
Yeah.
The way it's broken
And
up.
the thing about dolphins is that they have this high pitched sound, but elephants have a similar thing with low tones rather than high, and doggone whales
Yeah.
also do.
Yeah.
Whales sing,
Yeah, beautifully.
yes, and it's like, what in the world? You'd think out there in the middle of the ocean, nowhere to go, nothing to do except go feed yourself and take care of your young or mate, and they find something to sing about.
Yeah,
We could use a lesson from
we
that.
absolutely could. I do have one comment though. You can learn Mandarin. You can learn Chinese language.
Oh, I had to stop and remember what Mandarin was.
We can. You and I can. Well, I don't know about you and I, but a person can learn Chinese, but learning, what the whale song means and what the birds are saying, like it's
Exactly.
not just another language. It's a whole another existence, which if this, to come back full circle, if this fellow who's talking about the UFO things is hopefully somebody somewhere in an office that gets paid a whole lot more than me is thinking about how you can successfully communicate appropriately.
Right.
And not make us look like a bunch of idiots.
Well, again, and this all fits with Bigfoot, because if Bigfoot is a thinking creature and intelligent and has a language, why would it bother to speak like we could understand it? Because it doesn't want us to be bugging it.
Right. It's a whole nother.
I wouldn't want Sasquatch bugging me.
Right.
So why would Sasquatch want us bugging him or her? And so the one, all right, this is a very, very tiny example. In Spanish, you don't say, I want to go to the store. You say, to the store I go. And but you use Spanish words to say it. The sentence structure is different. And
conjugation, children.
And they think differently because that's how they were raised. Okay, not because they're physically different, but that's how they were raised, and that's how their language developed. Now, if we just slam dunk stuck to our sentence structure and tried to translate to Spanish, we would never get the job done.
That's why
we would never get it done, because we don't think that way. But we've learned to think that way. They've learned to think our way as well, for the biggest part, both ways. And there are a great many people that speak Spanish and English both, and so forth. So now a dolphin, what are its thought patterns? All right. And I can't imagine that a dolphin's thinking about, let's go somewhere,
right,
or let's go to the store, or let's go swimming, or let's go walking, since we go swimming and they would go walking.
Right.
They can breathe in the air, but they won't go walking, primarily because they don't have legs. But that's beside the point. The point is that they don't think the same way we do.
Right.
And the reason that they don't think the same way we do is because they are in a different environment, raised in a different environment, taught in a different way, and exist in a different manner. Everything about them is different from us, including the potential for speech. So why would we be able to understand what they're saying until we get a Rosetta Stone, if you will, that has 4 different languages, or 5 on it. I think it was 4. And on this Rosetta Stone, it had the meanings of this language, this language, this language, and that one, and correlated them and allowed people to say, okay, that means this, so this, and this means over here, that means the same thing. So now you can start to begin to learn how those symbols correlate to language and thoughts, because it's nowhere near as important to think about the words as it is the thoughts that are happening, because the thoughts are what's creating the words. The thoughts are creating the ideas that you and I are having about this podcast and or Sasquatch or anything else. So the thoughts are a critical part of it. And till we learn to think the way they do, we're not going to be able to speak the way they do.
What does even thinking even mean to them?
True.
We don't even understand what that means to them.
Right.
Clearly there's a self-awareness there, but what does that mean to them also?
Exactly.
And furthermore, when we're learning Spanish, generally there is someone who speaks Spanish who is working with us. Like, right. The Spanish language is working with the person who's trying to learn it. That's not the case with a Bigfoot or a dolphin or a whale or a turtle. They're not trying to teach you anything. They're just they don't care about you. They don't want you to know. They don't care. So the subject is almost fighting against you to learn. I can't imagine being a biologist studying turtles for 30 years and then going, well, we think they poop generally an hour after they eat. You know what I mean? Like, because that turtle head, you can watch it all day long, but it's told you nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. Every day at 6 o'clock, it goes over there. Why? I don't know. You know what?
Exactly.
We can know so much and so little at the same time, and I think that has created the arrogance of there's no Bigfoot there, there's no Loch Ness monster there. None of those things are there because we know what's there.
All right. I'll throw another monkey wrench in the whole works here.
Whip it at me, Cecil.
I'm going to throw it at you. Think about a pigeon. All right. Do you believe there's such a thing as a homing pigeon?
Yes.
Okay.
I used to print the Racing Pigeon Bulletin.
Okay. Well, anyways, I believe there's such a thing, and they used to actually use them. And I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, like a pigeon could really do this." And
yeah.
But the reality of it is, all right, they learned what the pigeon can do. So a pigeon that's at home, they take that home, and that pigeon was raised on this table, so to speak, and then they take it to the other end of the building, and they put a note on its leg, and then turn it loose and let it fly home. All right, so it comes in here to this table, and now it's home, and it's delivered a message. Now, how do they know that pigeon can find its way? Do you have any idea how it's done?
No.
They have tiny elements of iron in their head.
Really?
And that
almost like a magnetic.
That is how they magnetically direct themselves.
You know who is a great teacher on pigeons?
Who's that?
Mike Tyson.
You know, I've heard a little bit about that.
The guy loves pigeons, and he's very knowledgeable and very good to his pigeons. So for real, I worked in Bellbrook, Ohio, a place called Franklin Street Graphics. Mike, how's it going? And Mike's family was into racing pigeons, which are homing pigeons. Mm-hmm. And we printed the Racing Pigeon Bulletin. I'd print about 5,000 copies a month, send them all over the world. These birds go for thousands, millions of dollars for a bird.
Yeah.
A pigeon. And I couldn't figure out how do you race them? Like, do you have to train them to one spot? All of them? So what they do is there's like this huge equation. So you take your bird to the drop-off point, and the bird will fly to your place. Mm-hmm. And then they factor the distance and the air time from how long it took each bird to get back. And there's these huge watch parties where people are watching all the birdhouses online for that bird to come in. Millions of dollars at stake.
Yeah.
Millions.
Absolutely.
It's wild.
Okay,
but the birds are amazing.
So now we have figured out without in the beginning, without understanding how a pigeon did it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Without even beginning to understand how a pigeon did it.
To the point we could almost do it now.
Well, true. But anyways, the point is that we finally figured out how they did it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at other animals, how do flocks of bird fly in a mass, and one bird turns to the left and all of them go almost instantly
it's
right with them? We still don't know that one. All right. But if we could find those answers, there are a great many things that we would understand better than what we do. If we could find the answers to what Bigfoot's thinking, if Bigfoot is real, and how he thinks and what he thinks about, and the structure of his thoughts and what it means to Bigfoot, then we could figure out where Bigfoot's mostly going to be and how to find Bigfoot and how to avoid destroying him, mm-hmm. or how to destroy him, which I do not promote. Mm-hmm. And I do not promote wiping any creature from existence. And it's like I had a cousin, he's gone now, and he said one time we need to get all the deer on the planet off, kill every last one of them. And I said, what in the world for? And he said, because they have the potential to run a beautiful car. for running out in front of you and hitting them. Well,
How dare you drive through their habitat?
yeah, really. You drive through their habitat in a car that you spent a bunch of money on, and without a deer siren on your car or anything like that, and then you're ticked off because a natural creature messed up your car. But the point is, way beyond that. The deer are an integral part of the ecosystem and fauna and foliage of this planet, at least this country, and many others. They're integral, they're important, they serve a purpose, and they're needed. If we wipe them off, we're going to have troubles that we just can't even imagine what they would be right now.
When people swat at bees, we need those bees. Save the bees. I wanted to mention one last thing. I'm working on the Facebook account for Aberrations in the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to post a few things up there and give it just another source for people to reach out. I've told a few people here lately that if there's something that they would like to see or hear, because people, like I said, people are listening. I said, if there's something you want to see, hear, want us to talk about, want to see more of, let us know, because we're having fun. We'd like to cater this and make it entertaining for everybody.
Yeah. We're talking about all kinds of different things today, not just Bigfoot.
Sure. And that's our thing, everything.
But the way we see it, these things are all interrelated, and they're all important, and it's more about understanding it and learning about them than it is just getting up there and touting and saying, well, by God, we know they exist.
Right.
It's not that.
It's not that at all.
It's not about that. It's about, we do think they exist. Bill and I both do believe they exist. And I'm pretty much a hardcore believer. But that is not what I'm trying to impress upon you. What I'm trying to impress upon you, and Bill is trying to impress upon you, is that we want the information, we want to talk about it, we want to learn more about it, and we want you to learn more about it.
There are so many different things, and we're hopefully, God willing, we'll keep talking about them. They can't all just be kooky people. They can't all just be made up stories. There's a whole culture of what people just deem weird and odd, and they don't talk about it because it's hard to explain, and some people are frightened by that, whether it be Bigfoot or a ghost or a UFO or whatever. Be prepared. Know what's in your neighborhood. Talk about it. We could learn some things from nature. Watch nature. You need nature in your life.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I first started talking about this podcast going to happen to some of my friends, they said, what's it about? And I said, we're going to be talking about Bigfoot and aberrations in the wild. And they said, did the aliens introduce you? And I said, yeah, it was Uncle Martin.
I expected a lot more backlash than I got. People have been pretty receptive and pretty open to it. A lot of people want to talk. And I had a guy at the gas station the other day. Your typical gas station guy. He's like, "You believe in Bigfoot?" Because I was talking about the tattoo on my leg, and I was like, and before I could come up with an answer to that, he was like, "Because I believe in Bigfoot." I was like, "You need to check out this podcast." He's like, "All right, cool." So hopefully you're watching, man. Right. Hopefully you're watching.
Cool. Love it.
Y'all have a great day.
All right. God bless y'all. Bye.